So we're live.
We're live. Hi.
Hi, Dee. It's a pleasure to have you on my show.
Thank you very much, Cass, for having the patience to get through what we've been through the last few minutes to actually make this contact.
Well, actually, you managed it pretty well. You managed to activate the camera and everything, so it worked at the end.
Don't ask me how I did it, though.
Well, I must confess, you are actually probably the most famous person I have interviewed on this show. I mean, the highest subscriber was like I interviewed someone with 5,700 subscribers, but you have 200,000. That's crazy.
230,000.
Oh, yep. Sorry for them.
Please, please.
Yeah, 230. So let's get into that. How did you start sharing your wisdom on YouTube?
First of all, I'd challenge that word wisdom. I don't see myself as having wisdom. I'm just me. And what you see is what you get. And over 2 years ago, I posted just a little piece on hypnobirthing because I still do a little bit, counseling, hypnotherapy, hypnobirthing. And it just sat there for a good while. Then my website disintegrated big time. So I thought, okay, I need to take another approach. I've got this YouTube channel. Let's start communicating on there. So that's when I started basically walking and talking out in gardens or nature for people who can't get out and about. And I was thinking of a friend who is housebound, and I thought it was a way to get her to share things with me. That's how it started.
So your inspiration was your friend, or what was the inspiration behind like moving to the YouTube channel? And I have a lot of questions about the hypnobirthing. I'm gonna come back to that.
Only because I happen to have it set up, and I'm not into all of the TikTok, Instagram, etc. I've no idea how they function. My granddaughters keep saying, "Oh, you've had so many views on TikTok." Okay, right. I've no idea how to get on there if I ever wanted to, but that's why I stuck with Instagram, come on, brain, you can do it, with YouTube.
And what is hypnobirthing?
It's working with couples when they are pregnant and teaching them hypnosis for relaxation, but also teaching them how the body actually works during pregnancy and birth, which people don't tell you. And, most women sort of go, but that is going against the baby getting out. So being able to relax through it, and people say, "Oh, I can't do that," but they do. And it makes a big difference.
That's interesting. So you know how to hypnotize people, essentially.
Yes, yes.
And to me, the art of hypnotizing people is just it looks like magic, but I know there are like scientific backing, it actually works. But
There is, yes.
yeah, that's interesting. I didn't know that about you.
It's only relaxation. There's nothing weird or wonderful. And if I'm doing hypnotherapy, i.e., maybe stopping somebody smoking or fear of heights, whatever, I will always have an introductory session and just do a piece of relaxation. Because no matter what you say, they think it will be something weird. But it isn't. It isn't.
How often do you see success with hypnotizing people to quit smoking?
That is a bit of a hit and miss one, because I cannot make somebody do what they don't want to do. So if they, somewhere in them, really enjoy still smoking, I can't
It's
do
pretty
that.
hard. Yeah. Well, what is the most important life lesson you've learned over the years? And like,
Oh,
obviously you have a practice where you do these hypnotizing sessions and stuff, so you
mhm.
actually get a lot of insight into people's lives. So
Basically, there's a lot of people out there struggling with life in one form or another. Um, we've got the people who think they've got it all and are glittering through life, but there's a lot of people struggling.
mm,
Um, I know I can't mend the world, but I can mend little bits of it or help them to mend themselves, which is more important.
yeah, I think that's a very beautiful perspective. And as we're going on with the world, I think everything is getting more complicated. Even for a young person like me, I sometimes find myself lost in all the chaos of the world. Like there are two major wars, and then there's artificial intelligence, which like develops really quickly. And I mean, I don't think I'm the only person, but most of my friends, we feel lost and we feel like we can't catch up with technology anymore. As we like the younger generation used to be the ones who are good with technology, but I feel
Mm.
like we're losing that grip.
Imagine how I feel then.
Yeah.
When I first was introduced to computers, it was an old BBC that you used to have to sort of switch on, let it warm up and get going. And I was working in a primary school at the time, and it was a wet playtime. So the children were in the classrooms. I was on duty going around all the classrooms. The rest of the staff were having coffee in the, no, going around the classrooms. The rest of the staff were in the staff room. And I went into one of the rooms and there was this beep, beep. And I thought, it's the fire alarm. Right, everybody out. And I ran round the school. Didn't strike me that I couldn't hear the beeping any longer. Emptied all the classrooms, everybody out on the playground, line up in the pouring rain, and the staff looking out of the window. What's she doing? And I, oh, oh, and it was this BBC computer against the window, and it was making this vibrating, beeping sound.
It must have been scared.
I was never allowed to forget that.
Well, what do you believe is the key to a happy and fulfilled life?
I don't think there's one key. I think there's lots. It depends. Some people, it's a lot of money. Some
Mhm.
people, it's the biggest house, the biggest car. But for me, it's feeling content with what you've got.
And how can one reach that contentment? Because I mean, for me, as a 24-year-old recently graduated, I'm going to search for jobs and stuff. I
Mm.
feel like money is such an important factor.
It
And I
is,
feel like a
yes.
lot of young people have that idea too, but how can I master that contentment within me?
You live in the here and now. I mean, I
Mm.
use mindfulness. Have you ever tried that?
Yes, yes, I love meditating. I meditate every day.
Yes. So that's a good way of keeping you grounded, so
Mm.
that you are accepting of things whilst you still have to pursue your job requirements to presumably pay off your student grants, etc., before you start.
Oh, thank God I don't have student grants, but I can't imagine the
Oh,
people who have them. I mean,
no,
it must be
no,
pretty hard. Yeah.
yes.
So, mindfulness, and what form of mindfulness would you recommend? Like, because there are multiple types.
I just go with the very basic. I start my day with gratitude, end my day with gratitude. And whenever I'm out and about, I make sure that I cue into what I can see, hear,
Mm-hmm.
touch, but also what it makes me feel.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
I I do meditate, but I find it hard to focus. So I prefer a guided relaxation. That suits
Mm.
me better.
Do you
This
use
old
any
brain doesn't stop very easily.
do you use any apps, or do you use
I
YouTube for
use
that?
my own recordings, which took some getting used to because I knew that I would make a point at which I changed a word because I'd made a mistake. But, thinking on my feet.
Well,
But
I
now
think
I accept that.
those would be good content for YouTube, and others could use your guided meditations too.
I've posted one,
Really?
but yes, a walk along a beach.
Okay, I'll
So
definitely check that one out.
mhm. I need to do some more, but that's a winter task because I would want to freshen them up and start from the beginning.
Is there a particular uh, advice you gave that had a profound impact on someone? Perhaps a story from your followers?
Um, One thing that I believe in is that you're never too old for anything. And I had one client, I have mentioned him on my channel before, and it was a long time ago, so that's fine, who had been badly abused. And he came, it took him some time to see him walking past, walk past the other way. And I thought that must be him. Anyway, he eventually plucked up the courage to come in.
Mm.
And he went from being this isolated person who trusted nobody, communicated with nobody, that gently and gradually we worked on the social skills. He didn't know how to chat. So
Mm.
I said, if you're standing next to somebody at the bus stop, what do you do? He said, I turn the other way. So
Mm.
just slowly and gently, he moved into the world around him. And that gave me a great, yeah.
Wow. This,
I mean, we even rehearsed how to shake hands and things like that. He didn't know that.
I think to a varying degree, everyone has social awkwardness and avoiding social situations at certain times. But
Absolutely.
it's a profound thing to do to bring someone into society like that.
Yes, we can easily form a wrong impression. I was at, these, if you go on a course and they have the integration thing at the beginning, and I'd been saying something to everybody, and there was one guy left, a young man. He'd got tattoos and piercings everywhere. And I'd thought, oh, he's not going to be my kind of person, Mrs. Middle-aged and everything, as I was then. And so we faced each other. I said, I've got to be honest, I've been avoiding you because I didn't think we would have anything in common. He said, I've been the same. I've been avoiding you because I thought you were an old biddy. And we got on like a house on fire.
Usually the ones that look rough on the outside, they're usually very soft on the inside. It's
I like people like that. I really do. Yes.
I'm presuming that you're a therapist. Is
Yes.
that so you are, and how many years have you been a therapist?
It will be nearly 30 years now.
30 years.
When I was teaching, I knew that when I retired, I needed something else. I needed to
Hmm.
be doing something. So I did my training as a counselor. And then I did my training as a hypnotherapist and hypnobirthing. So I was doing that on top of a 6-day week. I'm not quite sure how I did it, but I did it. And I've loved it ever since.
Interesting. And what is one profound story from your practice? Is it the one that you already said, or is it there one which affected you
I
greatly?
think my first one ever, I wasn't qualified, um, but as an older person, obviously I got experience of life and everything, which was a big help. But I was working as a student counsellor at a local university, and they had set up for me my first ever counselling session, a young lady who had problems with time management. So it wasn't anything that was going to be too emotional for either of us. And the two counsellors went with their clients, and then the secretary came. She said, "I've got a young man who is desperate. Will you see him?" So I said, "Well, you know, I've got," she said, he won't stay, he won't wait. So I said,
Mm.
"Okay, if you just let the other client know." So I went in with him, and he had been gang raped. And so I worked with him thinking, okay, this is in at the deep end. Shut off what I was thinking and focused on him. And
Mm.
we talked it through, we worked it through. And at one point I said, "How are you really feeling?" He said, I'm fine. I said, "Okay, what does that mean?" "No one's ever asked me that," he said. He said, "It means I'll say, flipping,
Mm.
insecure, negative, and empty." And then we began with the real therapeutic bit. And we were together for about 2.5 hours or more. And he went off, and I never knew. I looked in the papers, never saw anything about anybody committing suicide from the university. And when he graduated, I got a lovely letter forwarded to me to say thank you. And that really, well, I just sobbed. So
Wow,
it was amazing. I was
that's a
so
crazy
grateful to
story.
him. Mm.
And how long did his therapy take? Like
We just had one 2.5 hour session.
just
Um,
one?
whether he saw the other counsellors after, I don't know.
Oh, that
But
shows how.
normally something like that, I would have expected to have more, but I never saw him again.
Hmm. I mean, obviously, you must have come across these saddening cases a lot. How do you basically balance it? Like, not allow it to spill over to your life or affect your mood? Because
Coping.
I want to become a psychiatrist, and my friends always tell me like, how do you want to become a psychiatrist? You always see people in their miseries, and it's a valid question. And I always ask myself, like, do I have that strength not to allow that to take over my brain?
You have to. I have
Mhm.
coping mechanisms that if I've had a heavy session, the music goes on loudly and I fling myself around and I sing to it. Supervision. We have to have supervision to offload. And I have to say, I imagine I've got my supervision. That supervisor has their supervisor, and I have visions of some poor so-and-so sitting at the top of the pile who's got everybody's woes piled on top of them. But it's also a realization that if you don't cope, then what message are you giving to your client?
Mm,
I have cried with them sometimes because what they've said has been so horrible.
mm,
But then I've always explained, that really touched me. And it's not because I feel that you should have done anything differently or anything. I'm crying with you, not at you.
mm.
And being honest.
Yeah, that makes sense. I
Because
mean,
that therapeutic relationship, you're on hiding to nothing if you don't establish that.
mm. And as a therapist, what is the greatest pathology you see in people's psyches? Like, what is everyone mostly suffering these days from? Is it loneliness, addiction?
There's a lot of loneliness. I think there's a lot of hidden addiction.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Addiction to things that, it's not drugs and alcohol. They might have other addictions that they see as a coping mechanism,
Mm-hmm.
maybe overeating, that they just see as maybe being a bit greedy, but they become addicted to it.
Mm-hmm.
And because it's not one of the big list, they just get on with it and get worse and worse. But yes, loneliness as well, but also people feeling that fear of the world around.
Mm.
There's a lot of people affected by that.
When you mean fear of the world around, does that mean like fear of people, fear of social situations, those type of things?
Yes, but also the war situations
Mm.
and threats that, is it going to escalate? What will
Mm.
happen? And the fact that the global warming issues seem to be going further and further onto the back burner.
Mm. I feel like
Um,
there's a lot of uncertainty in the world these days, and that's why,
yes.
and we're naturally afraid of the unknown, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Yes.
In
Some
your,
see it as a challenge, but most are afraid of it. Yes.
yeah, I mean, I like the fact that human life is mostly plagued with uncertainty and the unknown, but there is a little bit
Mhm.
of a fear factor to it.
Yes. Yes.
Throughout your practice and also your YouTube journey, I mean, knowing
Mhm.
all this background story, like I think you deserve to have 200,000 subscribers. I mean, who would be
Thank you.
more fit to give life advice? But has there ever been moments where you felt your wisdom was misunderstood or ignored?
Yes. Yes. Uh, I didn't take it very well either. It was somebody that I knew very well, and my teaching, I ended up as a special needs advisory teacher. So that was obviously my strength. I'd done a lot of training. And I was helping this little one with homework at the age of 5, which I didn't like anyway. And I said to the mum and dad, do realize that they've got a big problem with maths. No, 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 no. School would have said something. I said, okay, fine. Just remember it's what I do. I'm happy to set up a program for school. No, no, no. And then 2 years later, oh, we've just found out that she's got a problem with maths.
Mm. So yeah, so you were basically working with this child and then you noticed she has developmental problems, or was it just she had
Just
math problem?
just the maths,
Oh, so it
yes.
was a small problem that was probably solvable.
Mm, mm.
Mm.
It's not English or any language. You can get away with not being able to work with some spelling patterns, or
Mm.
you've got Grammarly to check everything, and you can just carry on and paper over the cracks. But with maths, you need to go right back to basics, to where
Mm.
they've dipped out somehow on that initial learning.
Yeah.
Fill in that gap, and then you can move on.
Yeah, if they probably listened to you, it would have they probably benefited. But
Yes.
turning into wisdom and reflection, which you clearly stated that you don't think you have wisdom, but your YouTube channel probably says otherwise. What are some pieces of advice that seems to resonate the most with your audience on YouTube?
Getting them to put themselves on the pile, if at the top of the pile if they can, but so many people put themselves down and
Mm.
don't consider themselves. Maybe they're people pleasers, or maybe they're just in a situation where they feel that everybody else comes first and that they
Mm.
need to sort that.
But sometimes I feel like it's also the environment. Like if enough people tell you that you're not good enough, I think you'll be convinced.
Oh, absolutely. But
I
then
mean,
if you're telling yourself you're not good enough, then you're really convinced.
yeah, I think I
Mm,
have a personal story with this because I was never good in high school and uh like I barely passed my subjects and I was always by the principal's office. And when I was in med school and like the fourth year, fifth year, because
mhm.
the reason I was bad in high school was because I didn't know what I want to do. And studying
Okay.
all the things that school was forcing, it just seemed very useless.
Mm,
So most of my teachers, most of my principals, the people who I knew from school, they thought I was just dumb. And because of that environment, I also reinforced that on myself. But when I realized I really want to become a doctor, I really want to become a psychiatrist, everything shifted. Like it
mm.
didn't matter. And I realized that it showed me the effect of how people's opinion might basically damage you at certain points.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. But
As,
yours in particular, once you had cued in onto that, then yeah, I'm thick, I'm dumb. Oh, so why should I bother?
yeah, I mean, for me, it was
Then,
just like, if I fail, I failed. I mean, I don't
mm,
care. At least I wouldn't say like, I wouldn't have this what if in my mind forever. I'll go into med school and what do I have to lose? I'll just fail out and then I know I don't have the strength for med school. And it turns out it wasn't actually that bad. I
mm,
mean, it was pretty hard, but I passed through it. I feel like a
well
lot of
done.
people need to understand that.
Yes, yes. And some people are late starters that they don't have the impetus for whatever reason. And
Mm,
boys in particular, I mean, I remember teaching young boys to read. If you give them one of the typical readers, can't be bothered. But I'd
mm.
make my own books about cars and aeroplanes and buildings and things, and they were suddenly interested. So you've got to light that fire at the beginning.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I definitely agree with that. I feel like a teacher must basically touch the child's heart because I was bad in
Exactly.
every subject, but my love of biology came through my high school teacher, and he was the only teacher I loved next to my literature teacher because
Mhm.
they both like all the other teachers I felt like they didn't treat me well, but my biology teacher, for example, got me to the corner. He was like, "I know you got this," and he would like actually take his time and sit and teach me the concepts in a class of like I don't know 20, 25 people. And then my literature teacher once came up to me and was like, in the teacher's room, they talk about how naughty you are and how you don't listen and you just jump around. But in my class, you just sit and listen. I don't believe them. And that
Mm,
that I think
yes.
that rooted a love of biology and literature from an early age into me.
How did it feel having that mirror held up to you?
I mean, when I was a child, I didn't realize it, but now that I'm in this stage of my life and when I look back, I see how great the impacts were.
Mhm,
Like they I mean, I have two things that I enjoy most in life. The one is literature, reading, and
mhm.
then the other one is biology.
Yes.
And in literature, for me, I'm a very slow reader, but I enjoy the text so much that I don't mind that. I can't
Mm,
do this scan reading everybody does and they read five or books in like 2 weeks or something. I can't do that, but I enjoy every book I read. And that was because of those teachers, I think.
I'm with you on that one, absolutely.
Mhm.
I don't like audio books because I can't take it in as easily as the printed word.
I know, right? There's
Um,
there's something about reading that sticks. When I listen to
mm,
audiobooks, I just forget the context of the books really fast.
yes, yes, yes. But each their own. But
Yeah.
I'm the same. It depends on how we take in the knowledge. I mean, I'm very much a multi-sensory learner.
Mm-hmm.
And if I just hear an instruction, I have to think it through and see it through, and then I'm fine.
Mm-hmm.
But in a classroom, if they're only using one approach, then you're losing quite a lot of the children. The good old multi-sensory approach comes into play.
I feel a lot of schools are not like that. They just have one approach.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The joys, but getting people to imagine things, use their imaginations is essential. I mean, when you talked about the number of subscribers I have, when it started to grow, I imagined a football stadium full of people. And I thought, that's a lot of people. But
Yeah.
now it would be a very big stadium or several, and that just blows my mind. And then we
Yeah.
keep having these people saying they think of me as grandma and call me grandma. And I just keep saying, well, I hope they're not all expecting a birthday card from me. If that's how they imagine me, fine, I can go with that.
But it's really amazing the way you have created that air of warmth in your page that people feel free to do that.
Yes. And I have to say, I'd touch wood if there was any around this.
I have wood
Um,
here. That's it.
Thank you. I have been very fortunate in, I'm leaning on an open door here, not having many nasty messages.
Mhm.
I just delete them straight away. I've got some that I don't understand.
Mhm.
Um, and some, I have to put through Google Translate. And I had one recently from a lady in Ireland, and she'd written a message in Irish. So I translated it, and I thought, I'll write back to her in Irish. So I wanted to say my pleasure. So I clicked that into Google Translate and wrote the answer. And she came back giggling. I don't know what you think you've said, but it doesn't make sense. So, oh, that'll teach me to be a smart aleck, won't it?
Do you get a lot of hate comments or comments that are a bit disturbing, or is it a rare phenomenon?
Not hate. Um, Disturbing, yes, but not. Yes, I'm very fortunate that there haven't been many. There are some that, as I say, I don't understand.
Mm.
That whether it's me trying to read the music behind the words, I'm not sure. So I have to be very careful not to say too much because I haven't got the whole picture.
Mm.
And there've been some interesting ones where you get somebody saying nice things about the channel or a particular video, and then launching into, and I used to be, and now I've got lots of money, and okay, thank you very much. Bye bye.
Yeah, I think
So,
it's inevitable. I mean, those type of comments and responses will
yeah.
basically come by as you get more and more reach in YouTube.
Mm. But I answer every message. I look at every message.
Mm.
Um, Friends keep saying, you need to stop doing that, but no, I'll keep doing it as long as I can.
I mean, as long as the ratio of the good comments is more than the bad comments, I think it wouldn't affect you that much.
No, no, the bad comments are, very, very few. So
Mhm.
I hope
Okay.
that doesn't bring the gremlins flying in.
I mean, that gives one hope of the world. I mean, I feel like
Absolutely.
disturbed people or people who have a lot of adversities and they let it get to them. They're not that many. So I think it's the exposure is not that much.
Mm.
So
And I
speaking,
have to say that I really enjoyed your piece on energy and letting go and things that tied in with my one that set off this crazy ride I've been on. I
well, I
really
really
enjoyed
appreciate it.
that. Is
I'm
it
glad
okay if
I,
I put the details in the blurb underneath for
that
people to
that would
click
be
through?
really nice of you. Thank you so much for that. I really
My pleasure.
appreciate it.
My pleasure.
And I'm actually really happy you, you liked the video. Um, Speaking of the comment section and how people seem that they're more careless into giving advice or to judge fast in this fast-paced world, what values or habits do you think are being lost or overlooked? I feel like a lot of values are lost, like when people start commenting in Twitter, even on YouTube, because it's in the safe space of their home, so they can basically do anything, and they don't have the they don't have what happens when you do something bad in the world when they're doing it behind the keyboard. What
Yeah.
habits do you think are being lost or overlooked?
Face-to-face communication in many cases. I mean, I know that's an old one that we're concerned about the younger folk on their phones all the time. But I was talking to a younger one the other day, and I said, do you know, when I get Siri to put a timer on my phone or something, I said, I always click back and say, hey, Siri, thank you. And they said, so do I. I said, oh, I'm not the only idiot around. She said, well, if AI takes over, I want them to remember that I've been nice and polite to them, which I
I'm
thought was a
actually
good way of hedging your bets.
yeah, I'm actually too nice to AI too for that very reason. I'm shocked that you guys do it too.
Oh, good. Welcome to the team.
I mean, I think it's a safe bet. I mean, with this pace, it
Yeah,
might take over.
yes, yes. Oh dear. And it's very difficult to tell sometimes. I mean, if I've got a phone call and I sort of start telling them something and I think, hang on, is it a person or is it a machine?
Hmm.
Have I just wasted my breath?
I actually made a video I haven't uploaded yet that I think in several years it will be so hard to distinguish truth that we will go back to the era where we didn't have the printing press and we didn't have these media companies. So it
Mm,
would be easier for people to create religion, myths, and fake stories. So it will be as if we'll go back in history. I feel like in a few years, it will be really hard to distinguish what's fake news, what's true news with AI and everything. And that's one of the things that keeps me awake at night these days.
mm. I have a big thing about people saying, well, it's my truth. No, it's your
Mm,
opinion,
yeah.
and that's different. There's only one truth.
Mm,
I remember we all put different spins on things. When I was class teaching, um, I got my son to pretend to break into the classroom, and I'd said I'd got this box and it was very precious. And he snatched the box and ran out with it. And I said, oh, right, okay. Before I call the police, I need you to write down a quick description of the person. And, it was amazing, the difference. And that's what they perceived.
mm.
And that's where we're going all the time now.
Yeah,
So,
I think the
yeah,
concept of
people get,
truth is a very tricky thing in human life because I I mean a lot of people say that there's one ultimate truth at the end of the day, but I really believe to humanity that truth is never accessible because
mm,
well the reason that truth is never accessible to humanity is because throughout history, I feel like whoever had power had the benefit of writing history, and it's
Yeah.
constantly happening. So you never know
Yes.
what's actually true and what's not.
No, no. There's always a big bias on things. Yes.
Mhm,
So, as you say, finding out what is true, unless it's something that you've seen with your own eyes, witnessed, and been a part of,
mhm.
we're just hoping.
Yep, yep. I have one question that I think it would be interesting to ask elderly people, because the basic question is this: what is love?
Oh, love is a very misused word. I mean,
Mhm,
you can say, I love this pair of shoes. Oh, I love that meal. But then you say to somebody, I love you.
mhm,
You can't equate. I think we fail by having just one word. There are some
mhm,
languages that have lots and lots of different words for it, and I think that's where we fall short. But to
mhm.
really love somebody, ooh, yes. Now that's a good one for over a glass of wine, I think. Um, some will say that you do everything for the person,
Mhm,
but to me it has to be give and take. If it's balance. If the relationship isn't balanced, then somebody's in a place of power.
mhm,
And that to me isn't what I see as love. But then I love being out in nature. I love looking at the minutiae of life.
mhm.
So yeah,
I feel like
it's misused.
it's misused, and it doesn't have a clear definition at all. And a lot
No.
of young people get wound up on it.
Mm.
But I don't know, there was this one psychologist who defined it in a way that really appealed to me. And
Mm-hmm.
this is his exact words. He said, I think his name is Orion Taraban. I'm not sure if
Right.
I said that right, but I'll write it down somewhere here. And he said that love is humility and exultance.
Mm.
Like, it's like it doesn't, and he gave a reference to the movie Casablanca. I don't know if you have seen that movie or not.
Yes. Not for a long time, but yes.
Yeah, yeah, like he gave that example of how the guy told the person he loved to go on the plane. You know, there's spoiler alert, and
Mm-hmm.
go with the other man because he knew that that was the best thing for that girl. Even
Mm-hmm.
though he loved her so much, he wanted to be with her, but he knew the best thing for her was to be with the other man. And I like that description of love that that psychologist gave. Like there's humility in this action, but there's
Mm.
exultance. You don't come out of it as if you're basically defeated.
No, no, yes. But there's a lot of people who take, and in that situation, you've got to give, you've got to be a giver as well.
Mhm.
For some people that comes hard.
Yeah.
But no, I like that. And of course, Bible describes love. I can't quote now. My mind's gone as soon as I've said that. But love vaunteth not itself up. So
Mhm.
yeah. Mm.
Interesting. Interesting.
Yes,
So
yes.
let's move on to your thoughts on aging and legacy. And
Uh,
I'm so sorry, but we have to go through this because who else would be the best to ask from? How
well,
do you view?
a young lady like me doesn't know.
I was actually considering removing this part, but
Coward.
well, how do you view aging? Do you think society has a healthy relationship with it?
No.
Mm,
Short answer, no. Um, I think COVID made it worse as well, because yes, we're aware of how difficult it was for children not being in school, etc. But for many older people, I've talked with my friend who I mentioned before. I mean, we talk every single day, and we both feel that we aged after COVID, that it really aged us a lot because it stopped us going out, and we're not, well, she's not been out since really, apart from going to the hospital. And for so many, it isolated them more and made them feel and act in an old way. I mean, up here, I'm about 33, I think. But the
Not
rest of them,
18, 19?
90? No, no, I wouldn't like to be that young anymore. I'd be quite happy early 30s. Yes. But
So I
with the
should,
knowledge and understanding that I've got now, take that back with me.
ooh, you would probably
Ooh.
dominate the world.
But then when you think of that knowledge and understanding, how much you've lost in those years, how much you had piled into you at school that's gone, and the same with me, you know. And then occasionally you'll have a ka-ching moment and think, where did that come from? I didn't know I knew that.
A lot of things in life, I feel like at the moment when you're living, you don't realize, but like 10 years down the line, you notice their significance. And then you notice
Yes.
their direct effect on your on the now.
Mm, mm,
That's crazy for me. But this aging thing, I don't think hospitals are helping much either. I had a very different view of hospitals and the majority of doctors before med school and
mm,
after med school. I feel like before med school, hospitals were these places where people actually went to heal, right? That was the
yeah,
idea behind it.
yes.
And I mean, I don't know if this is the case in all around the world, but in Hungary, the state of hospitals are not that good.
Mm,
And I felt whenever I entered the hospital for a practice or something, I mean, the psychiatry department was horrible, but whenever I entered it, I told myself like I wouldn't let my dad stay here or my mom stay here.
mm,
Like it's not an area or a place for healing
mm,
because I'm a healthy individual. I enter that hospital and I get depressed and I can't wonder like how the patients are feeling at that stage.
mm. I mean, going back, can't remember, I'm hopeless with dates and years. I have said on my site, I've been very open that I had a breakdown.
Mm,
And my sons decided that they really couldn't cope with me because they felt they couldn't help. So I ended up in a psychiatric ward.
mm,
Nobody did anything for me apart from give me meds. I couldn't go
yeah.
in the day room because it was smoking room and I hate smoke. So I just spent the whole of the time on my bed. And then people started coming to me and asking me advice as if I'd got, tattoo, I'm a counselor, you can talk to me.
Mm.
So I just discharged myself.
I just
They were even thinking of bringing the cat in, could they sneak the cat in to me?
oh no.
So
Jesus,
fortunately, they didn't try that.
it's a crazy thing with psychiatry. I mean, of course, I've noticed like a lot of doctors also they get burnt out in the psychiatry ward. They don't
Mm,
pay enough attention to the patients and they just want to drug them, sedate them, and then just let them be. And then
yeah,
their whole theory is to stabilize them and then get them to society, and then they get messed up in the society and then bring them back, stabilize, and then it's just a repetitive cycle of people coming in and going out. And it's a wonder for me, like when for other body parts, like when someone has
mm,
a major illness physically, you take them to the hospital because the hospital, for example, is the best environment for them to basically get cured, right, of their illness. But in psychiatric wards, like I don't know in the West, but in Hungary, in some parts of Europe, the psychiatry wards, like, okay, if your idea is to cure their mental illness, I don't think an environment where it has bars and there's no nature outside can help that patient. As if the hospital environment is good for patients with physical illnesses, you have to find an environment that's good for the psyche of the patient. So I would consider like psychiatric hospitals should be like hotels, because that's the only way you can influence their minds. Like they should seek refuge to heal in the wards, and I don't see that in
Yeah.
psychiatric hospitals.
No. And the number of people struggling with mental health, mental well-being is certainly not going down, shall we say.
And it's on the rise. It's crazy.
Mm.
Like one scary factor that I was watching on YouTube from Dr. K was that suicide rates are increasing. They're just
Mm.
constantly increasing. And
Yeah.
that's really scary, I think, for a like why would people in a society want to like willingly kill themselves?
Mm.
So it's very
Yes.
worrying. And like I came to psychiatry because I felt like whenever I studied anything in medicine, I was open to every field. There was nothing that connected more for me because I had certain events in my life. I felt always secluded from people, and I feel like this area of expertise will lead me into people's lives, and that's a very great how do you say, honor to have that position.
Oh gosh, yes.
And
Yes.
I feel like now that I've come and my eyes are opened of the field, I feel like I need to be a force for change in the field. And that's what I'm aiming for, like
Good
to
for you.
probably change the hospital settings, the way we administer drugs and everything. That
Mm.
makes me happy to have that goal
Good.
too. So it's
Good.
two-way.
And I mean, there are other things besides drugs. I mean, I use a lot of essential oils. I
Mm.
like working with essential oils. I only will ever use the very pure ones, the therapeutic grade ones, but I used to have a lot of migraines, and so I was having to take meds for that. And I hated that. And then I started learning about the essential oils, and now just 3 drops, 1 drop
Mhm.
each of 3 different oils. I inhale it on the first notification that I'm about to start with a migraine, and it
Mhm.
goes. So, I like to look down other avenues rather than the big pharma one.
Yeah, I don't get why doctors are so against alternative medicine. So if their aim is to basically cure the sickness of the patient, the suffering of the patient, if the methods that are okay, let's say we notify the patient that these are not scientific, we don't know if they work, but if they work on the patient and the patient has tried it and as they say they don't have migraines,
Mm,
why do most doctors oppose that? I mean,
exactly. Yeah.
taking that even that patient has accepted to take the medical route alongside it with the alternative medicine. I don't
Mm.
find any problems with that.
No, no, no.
And
It's
you're,
nice to
I,
keep an open mind.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think they shouldn't reject it. And when I use essential oils, I use it for scent around the house usually. And
Hmm.
it even like when you smell it and then it smells good and it makes you feel good, it still affects your mind. You know, we can't
It
just
does.
deny it has no effect. So
Mm,
yeah.
absolutely. Mm.
So back to the topic of aging. What do you think is the most
Oh no, you're
valuable?
not going to drop this one, are you? It's funny how you can go off people.
Yeah. Well, there are 3 more questions in that section. I'll just get you ready
Oh,
from now.
I can feel a headache coming on.
So, what do you think is the most valuable lesson older generation can teach younger ones?
To live for the day, not
Mm,
to, yes, you have to make plans, good to have dreams, but don't do that to the exclusion of this day, this hour,
mhm,
because you're missing out on a lot. And so many want to grow and be like whoever their, what's the word I'm after? Not mentor, whoever they think is the best person around, a celebrity or something. But life isn't like that. Life is about here and now and doing what you can and not just focusing on yourself, helping others as well. I have a huge thing about that.
Do you have any regrets, or do you see them as learning experiences?
Both. Yes, I have some regrets, but some are small, like when we moved here, we moved from a big house in a hurry, and lots of things were thrown, including a bag full of tape to tape reels that had my parents speaking on it. And that I regret that I didn't grab it back and bring it. I would love to hear their voices, but big regrets, no. I probably that maybe I could have looked after myself more effectively, more efficiently. And I do now always listen to my body, and I went through a time where the stress was high and I ignored it and kept piling on, piling on. And that was when I had the breakdown. So listening to the body, listening to my old body is essential to me.
I feel like a lot of people these days are out of tune with their bodies, and I feel like it's the fault of our societies. We're in a culture or a petri dish that doesn't look after our health.
Yes. If you can stick a plaster on it, fine.
Yeah.
But if it's mental health, emotional well-being, then no. And there's so many medics who I had a damaged ankle and was sent to see an orthopedic guy. And I said, well, it's affecting me emotionally as well. I said, because I can't get out, I can't walk, I can't do a lot of things, and it's affecting me. Well, I only look at bones and feet and things like that. I don't look at minds. And I said,
Oh
but you
no.
cannot separate them.
Yeah,
He said,
yeah.
well, I'm not specialized in that. I said, well, you've been practicing for years, so it's not a matter of being specialized in it. It's a matter of accepting that you cannot separate them.
No, that's a grave mistake in my opinion, and I think that that differentiates a good doctor from a bad doctor. I'm a very new doctor. I can't say that for certain, but that's what I believe. And I don't know if you know Gabor Mate. He has this book. He's
Yes.
called The Myth of Normal, and
Mm-hmm.
he basically illustrates this plague in the medical community where if you are a gynecologist, you're a gynecologist. If you are a neurologist, you're a neurologist. Like, but the human body, we compartmentalize the human body because our minds can't handle or understand the complexity of it. But in reality, it's one unit. It's the mind and the body.
Yeah.
And he basically puts this into perspective. And I have a personal story from this. I was having a practice in my gynecology department, and we had this gynecologist, and then there was this schizophrenic patient who came into the practice. She had to have a gynecological test, and me being like, I want to be a psychiatrist, so I'm definitely interested in the case, and I started asking about the schizophrenia from the gynecologist, and then he just turned into me. He was like, listen, I'm a gynecologist, I don't care, just fix what I have to fix, and I just send it to the psychiatry ward. So
Yeah.
I really think it's a big problem, but a lot of people are moving towards that unified view of the human medical system now, I feel like.
About time too.
Yeah, yeah, it's a
Yes.
shame.
Yes. Mm.
So what
Um,
legacy do you
oh,
hope to leave with behind with
I,
your
I,
content? I feel bad
mm,
asking these questions, but I feel
yeah,
like these are really important.
I don't think I will leave any legacy. Hopefully people will think, yes, she was a decent person. She was helpful. She was kind. she did her best, and that's all that any of us can do.
I mean, I disagree. I think you'll leave a good legacy. I mean, not as if you're leaving now, but like
Thank
the.
you. You know,
I
I'm
think I'm
going
just gonna
right
move on
after
from
you.
this section. Your YouTube channel is a huge achievement, honestly.
Thank you. Thank you.
So
I,
to go on, sorry to
no,
interrupt.
I will plod on with it and see if I can hit that magic thing and get another Zoom off, but no
You
idea.
probably will. You probably will. I have my fingers crossed for you.
Oh, thank you, kind sir.
So moving on to the closing questions. What is the next chapter for you? Do you have any new projects or goals in mind?
Yes, on a couple of different levels. I've got, from my website, I've got a whole stack of blogs that I also recorded as podcasts. And I would like to make an ebook of those. No idea how I would do it. And as you witnessed when we first started this, IT and me are not on the same page. We're not in the same book. But I think that would be interesting.
Okay.
And
I mean, you will figure
I'm
it out
happy
for
to
sure.
ask for help. So I will ask my granddaughter, you know, what I do. So yes.
I'll definitely link it down there on the description. And
It's not written yet. Well, it's written, but it's not collated, and I've got to form it, and I don't know how to do that yet.
well, I
So
can link your website if it's already out.
thank you. Thank
Right.
you.
And also your
And my
YouTube
website's
page.
defunct. My website is no longer.
Okay,
So
whenever everything is set up, you can just send me an email and then I'll edit the description of the video. So
thank you.
that's the solution. What advice would you give to someone just starting to create content or share their wisdom online?
Be genuine and be honest. And if you don't know, say you don't know. I mean, I'm happy to do that. And if I make a mistake, I apologize for it and get on with it. But none of us is a fount of all knowledge. We all have gaps. And I would rather say, people say, will you do a piece on this? Okay, but I would need to do some reading around it. Others, I can talk for England on it because it's stuff that I know. But I would never knowingly go down avenues that I'm not equipped to go down.
Okay, amazing. I just got the 10 minutes notification. I think it's a good place to wrap it up. I really enjoyed this interview and thank you so much for accepting this.
It's my pleasure. I have loved it. I was really nervous, but thank you so very much.
Same here. Before every interview, I'm always nervous, but as we just glide into it, and the questions really help because at the beginnings, I find myself like getting lost, but then it finds its own pace. Yeah.
I'm always getting lost, but it's amazing sometimes where you find yourself.
Yep. All right, then.
Thank you so much, Cass. It's been great.
Thank you. Thank you. I really enjoyed it too. So until the next one.